Hello 2360 students. I hope everyone had a great spring break. I hope you were able to relax just a little bit maybe. And I hope someone got to do something fun. If you did, please, email me, tell me about it. I'd love to hear about your adventure over spring break, or if you didn't do anything, that's okay. Hopefully you had just a little bit of rest. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Module 5. So Module 5 starts today and it will close on March 26th. So you still have this 2 weeks to do it. To recap, before we get too far into it, you should have turned in your case study transition plan and your discussion activity already, because that was due on March 5th. So I didn't give you any assignments over spring break. If you wanted to work ahead, you could, but I want to jump into Module 5. So Module 5 is really going to be talking about things that's going to help you when you're planning and teaching in the classroom. So the first section really talks about, we're looking at those skills such as self-help and adaptive skills. We're going to be looking at communication and literacy. We're going to be looking at any kind of academic areas, which is including math. So all these things we really need to look at, and look at the different strategies in the classroom that you have when we're talking about learning support. The second part of the lesson is really going to be exploring how you support those students in various stages and those different strategies. So this, when you're supporting them, is really going to help increase not only engagement, but it's also going to help you look at your effectiveness of your teaching plan. So the first part really going to be planning for, and the second is how do you support them, and if this is working, especially when you're teaching young children who have disabilities or special needs. So what you're going to be doing for the first part is you're going to be looking at video links. There's some assigned reading. You will be looking at your field work part A, which I talked to you about. So we're going to talk a lot in this video because we have a lot to go over. So let's go ahead and jump in and first look at our goals or objectives. So for the first part, we're really going to look at how do we help young children develop those self-help skills. And we're going to have to look at the language and communication of students who have special needs. We're going to have to look at different instructional strategies, how we can support them in inclusive environments. We're going to look at those goals, those daily routines that we have for children. We're also going to look at any kind of assistive technology that we may need to train ourselves a little further on, and show you examples of high-tech and low-tech assistive technology. So our goals will meet our course requirements for these course learning outcomes here. So there are some guided questions here that are going to help you, so make sure that you look at that. There's also guiding questions for the second part of the lesson as well. These guiding questions are really going to help you gain a further understanding as you're reading and studying. So for reading, you're going to read in your textbook. So I listed the chapters here that I want you to read. So within the chapters, it's really helping you look at those self-care, adaptive, and independent skills we talked about. We're going to look at how you facilitate speech, language, and communication skills, and then also facilitating those cognitive learning and pre-academic skills that we want the student to have. Okay, here's your vocabulary list of what you will be seeing not only in your reading, but throughout the content itself as well. Okay, so starting the lesson here, you're going to look, we'll go through it, and then we'll talk about the second part of the lesson as well. Okay, so the first part introduces you by talking about the different areas of learning. Okay, so a lot of times when we're thinking about learning and gaining these skills, a lot of times we think it is academic, but we have to look at those other skills as well. We're talking about helping build that child's self-confidence, believing themselves as a learner. We have to teach them to act independently. So we're going to be looking at those areas of learning as well. Okay, so it defines what adaptive skills are, which we call functional skills, and those should be included in your plans for young children. So when we are assessing these adaptive skills, we really got to look at 4 areas. We're looking at communications, the daily living skills, any socialization, and motor skills. Okay, so these are really going to help determine that independence, but also that they have these functioning skills that they need as they get older. So when we're talking about students and these functioning skills or these adaptive skills, we have to look at also their disability, right? Their intellectual disability, what level of intervention they're going to need, what type of assistance, what challenges they may have. So these are all things that need to be taken into account. Okay, so it goes further into talking about how you can support them to be more independent. But one of the ways we can do that is using visual cues and supports. Okay, these are considered some of the most effective ways that you can provide assistance. So there's a video here about an occupational therapist who's really going to provide you some suggestions on teaching them like those self-help skills that they need. The next section here is going to talk to you even further about how those skills are taught. So how do you embed that into your plan when you're looking at your curriculum, your daily routines, activities? How can you offer that in your plans? And there's another video here. It's pretty short. You're just going to watch them work together on planning and implementing those interventions. So one of the independent or function skills or adaptive skills, we're going to talk about is what are the expectations for independent toilet use. Okay, so remember, this is going to depend on the child's age. It's going to also depend on their disability or their needs that they might have. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. So it's going to talk about that. Okay, the next one gets a little further into the communication skills and the academics. So when we're talking about serving young children, we need to look at literacy and academic, and plus those cognitive skills. How do they develop? So these are strategies here that should be automatically implemented when we're working with children with special needs. There's a page here from the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association that's really going to help you by providing you with information on those specific disorders that really impact a child's communication development. Okay, so how do you as a teacher facilitate communication skills? So this section is talking about that. We also have some techniques listed here for you. And then there is a video here from the Center of Early Learning, which can help you learn more about responsive teaching techniques. So more about this section up here and elaborate a little further. So there's lots of opportunities throughout the day for you to help with these communication skills, facilitating these. So we have to look at how do you plan this into your daily routines and activities. So there's a short video here that really helps you make circle time more appropriate to facilitate these skills, right? To help with helping with planning and how do you bring this into your daily activities. So what opportunities might you have? So there's a couple of videos here in addition to the first one that's really going to help you to teach those familiar tasks, right, that the student needs. Taking the most of your time, like looking at those teachable moments that you have throughout the day. So these are considered opportunities. And where do they come from? Like, where are you going to find those opportunities? Okay, we also look at English language learners and some things that you need to know, especially if you have English language learners that have special needs. So what are the issues that you might find working with those early childhood students? How can you support them in a young classroom? Okay, we're also looking at STEM. How do we incorporate STEM learning for young children who have disabilities? So this is a really great section. There's an overview video that talks about it, but then there's also 5 things that goes a step further in when we're looking at STEM for young children, right? So we want to ensure that the child can participate even though they have special needs. They can participate through adaptions. So that's really what the STEMI project is. It's that innovation for inclusion in early childhood. There's also a document here that provides lots of examples. So some of the adaption examples that we're talking about, we knew we have to look at the environment, we're looking at the materials, and we're looking at the instruction as well. Okay, so the next part is talking about assistive technology. So what is assistive technology? What are the benefits? How much does it cost? What impact does it have in the classroom, working with children with early childhood and who have disabilities? Okay, so that is the first section. The second section is really going to talk about more of strategies and support. Okay, so this section here actually has a really neat video. So this is going to cover instructional practices, right? So when we're gathering information on instructional practices, it's important for you to make sure that you look at the 4 phases of learning, right? How do they do the skill? We have to look at any kind of opportunities for embedding that learning throughout the day. And then we also have to look at, maintenance, making sure the student continues to do that afterwards. So these are the things that you're going to be looking at. So we're talking about any additional strategies. What other types of strategies or assistance can you use to support the child's learning? Okay, so here, there are a lot of files are listed here for you in the next few sections, but we're really going to talk about the acronym here called Pause and Think, right? So that's the acronym. So what we're looking at is in the classroom, when you're teaching young children different skills, we want them to be successful. Well, how do we make them more successful? Well, we embed these in our everyday routines and opportunities. So when we're thinking about opportunities that we're embedding, we're looking at how do we enhance language? How are we looking at their communication and facilitating better communication? We have to look at the motor development. We're going to instill thinking and problem solving skills. We're looking at social skills and daily living skills. Well, these activities have to draw in that child's interest, right? It has to be relevant to them at that time. So it has to make sense for not only developmental level, their age, but also looking at any kind of special needs that they may have. So looking for those teachable moments. So we want them to feel comfortable enough with the activities, and we want them to be able to participate in it. So we have the acronym Pause and Think, and these next 3 files are really, that I listed here, are really going to give you examples of how you support and interact with that child. Okay, so here's listing the first one, Pause. And I do have videos in here. I really like these videos because it allows you to see visually like examples of this being implemented. We have an example of like a visual schedule, and then we also have like a blog post that talks about considering the physical access when we're talking about encouraging their independent use of those materials. So there's a lot of good information here that's going to actually help you. Then we have so how are we adapting these activities to make sure the child participates? We're talking about the different types of prompts. Okay, so remember, we're going to give the children cues, right? These individual children. So we have to make sure that we're developing consistent prompts. And there's a different types of prompts here, and it goes a little bit further into detail. Think. So we have to make sure that we give the child enough time to respond, right? So we have to have that wait time. So we have to think about their processing speed. So this is for all children, not just for children who have learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities. We have to look at all children, and so how they benefit from wait time. So it talks a little bit more about not only wait time, but also the interactions you have and the feedback that you're giving them. So we're going to go ahead and show you here. So once you get done with that, at the very bottom, you're going to see your assignment. Okay, so those were the 2 lessons. So this module here actually has case study work. So last time you were doing the case study, you had to pick a student, and I told you to keep that same child because you will continue working with that same child in your case study work throughout. So this case study that you've been working on, the first one was to really define their problem that they had, like what was their disability. So now what you're going to do is you're going to do something called an embedded project. So with that same child that you were working with, you are going to think about planning an inclusive environment, right? So this module 5 is really talking about those, looking at the opportunities throughout the day. So embed those opportunities so we can make sure the child has those adaptive skills that they need, right? So you're going to have to plan how you would set these routines and the environment that you have for this child so that they could be successful. So here is the form that we have, and I'm going to open it up for you. So this will give you an example. You would put the child's name, the classroom, what their goals and objectives are. So this would be based on your, and it'll make more sense when I go through it, but this is going to be based on the goals or objectives you have for that child, looking at their disability as well. And then your activities and routines would go here. Okay, so then you would put what those goals or embedded activities would be. So let's go back. So here's showing you step by step how I want you to do. So you're going to write down the child's IFSP or IEP goals at the top of the blank column, okay? And these goals are listed in the case study section of the module 5 content pages. And down in the left-hand column, you're going to write the primary events, activities, routine, their schedule. So this information was all included in the case study for your child. That was in module 3. So then you're going to see the first row is labeled arrival. Okay, so you may not actually use all the rows, and that's okay. If you need additional rows, you can put additional rows. You're going to decide the goal and the activity or routine. So what I want you to do is you will be marking boxes. You can fill in with an X or a check mark. Okay, so that means that this is a matrix for that child's embedded learning. So the second step is for you to provide information on how the goal will be assessed. Okay, so the goal will be assessed, but you're going to be using teacher support, environmental support, or peer support. Okay, and there's 2 forms here. Okay, so here's your planning forms. Okay, so you have your goal and objective, your activity routine, what's the strategy, is it going to be environmental supports, how are the teacher supports going to happen, and how is the peer supports going to happen. And if you notice, there's 2 goals here. So you're going to be able to pick the supports for each section. So you'll have 2 goals, and then you will fill in the supports and what the strategy is. So you're going to consider 2 embedded opportunities. So 2 opportunities to make sure that you reach the different goals. Okay. So on each form, you will list an IEP goal, an activity, a routine. You're going to describe the strategy, what you plan to happen when you observe, and you're going to insert in the table. So when you're doing this, you're going to be looking at the teacher supports. Now remember, these are any methods that you use to assist the child in the learning or practicing of the skill. Okay, so this could be direct reaching, imitating, modeling, those sorts of things. Then you're going to look at environmental supports. So these are changes in the environment or additions that you have or modifications that are going to support the child. Then you have peer supports. So these are ways that other children in the classroom can help the targeted child. So remember, you need to have at least 2 or 3 resources of support. So you're going to pick teacher, environment, or peer. Okay, so you don't have to do all 3, but you need to have at least 2. Okay, so here's an example of what the planning form might look like. So here's Henry. He will initiate communication to meet needs during daily routines and activities. The activity routine event is going to be breakfast and lunch, family-style meal service. The strategy is Henry will communicate when he wants more of a food item by requesting a peer to pass the serving dish. Then the supports are listed. Okay, so you'll see they actually listed all 3 supports. So how do they support the student environmentally? Well, there were picture cards of food items and serving bowls, so that was listed around the area. The teacher support is she showed the whole group of children the picture cards as part of the menu board reviewed before each meal. And then she also supported Henry when he pointed to a serving bowl. She verbally prompted him to say or ask his peer's name and use the card to show his peer. And then the peer supports was they did practice with the class passing service bowls during small group and requesting from peer when additional help is wanted. So step 3 is going to be the last part of this assignment, which is going to be how are you going to monitor that this is actually helping the child and monitoring their progress. So you have to collect data. So there's an example here that you will need to look at to help you. So when we're looking at the activity, we're looking at the child's goal and how the activity is implemented. Okay, so I gave you pages to go back and refer to in chapter 10 that might kind of help you when you're looking at how to collect data and observing. So remember, it's your job as a professional or the staff to make sure that you determine the child's progress on the goals. So a simple method of data collection is really essential in making sure this happens. So the example here is showing you Henry's progress. Okay, so when you're collecting data, you can use a form here just like below that shows you, did these behavior skills, were they exhibited? How will data be collected? They will use a frequency count. How frequently? Twice a day, breakfast and lunch, 5 days a week. And then who is going to be the one observing? Okay, now here is data collection form showing you days of the week, verbal and picture. So this shows you an example as well. So you will look at the embedded opportunities, you will complete embedded learning opportunities, 2 of them at least, and then you will plan how will you assess the child. Okay, here's the rubric to show you how you will be graded. Okay, so how you're going to be graded is to make sure that you're including all these. You do your matrix of the embedded opportunities, you're completing at least 2 of those 3 embedded learning opportunities, and then you have a plan for monitoring, assessing to make sure that it's actually working. Okay, so just to remind you, here are the goals. Here are the children's case studies. Remember, you're going to continue to keep the same case study that you started with. Okay, that's going to help you develop a plan moving forward with the same student. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is we have field work part A, which you will have due on March 23rd. So let's go into that. So the field work assignment is shown here. We went over it a while ago, but we'll go over it a little bit now. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to read all this. So normally, when you have field work, you go out into the field or classrooms. But we're not going to be able to do that this time. So we have videos for you to watch. So this is an alternative assignment. So what you're going to be doing is to complete your fieldwork assignment, there's two parts. There's a part A and there's a part B. We're working on a part A. You will use the same videos for both parts A and B. You're going to have to watch these videos multiple times, okay, to complete the assignment. So fieldwork part A, which is what you're going to be doing in this module, is really about observation, right? It's going back looking at module 4, the universal design and early childhood. So what you're going to be doing is it's an observation of the environment of the classroom. So you're going to be observing different physical, social, and temporal components within the classroom environment. And you're going to use the universal design checklist as a guide. So let's look at that. Okay, so here is an example of the 3 environments that support a child's ability to learn. So we're looking at physical, social, and temporal. These are examples of the universal design for learning materials strategies offered. We have physical environment, when you think about physical environment, we're looking at the layout of the space, the arrangement of the furniture, the resources. You're looking at the floor coverings, we're looking at plants, lighting, you're looking at the paint on the walls. So all these things are considered the environment, right? And if the environment is set up to engage that child, right? And we're looking at both indoor and outdoor space. Is the classroom set up to where the children can explore activities? Are they inviting? Is there opportunities for learning and inquiry to happen? So all these things have to be taken into account. So here's a checklist for you to look at. Now, you're not going to submit the checklist, right? This is just allowing you to evaluate the environment that's going to help you support the child. So the videos can be found under Fieldwork module, which is what we're in. Okay, so when you're looking at the videos, there's 3 different age level programs. There's toddler, okay, there's preschool, so there's 2 options there, and then there's primary K3, and there's 3 options in this age range. You must watch and respond to 1 video in each of the 3 age ranges. So you're going to watch a video, at least 1 from toddler, watch at least 1 from preschool, and watch 1 from at least primary pre-K3. You're also going to refer to the videos by numbers, so you don't have to write out the titles. Okay, so when you're looking at the videos, I want you to look at the 3 environmental components: the physical, the social, and temporal. And you're going to look at that UDL checklist. And you're going to have this out while you're watching the videos. And I want you to see, any kind of extended support or technology that you're observing in the video. This is going to help describe the child, right? You're going to describe the child, the environment, but, how are they using these elements in the classroom? Give examples. How is the universal design element supporting that child that has a disability in early childhood? Okay, so this shouldn't be really a list. It should be more like a narrative description of what you observed. Okay, and please try not to just copy items from the checklist. Just give specific examples of what you were observing in the video. So there's a form here that you will download, which is called Observation of Environmental Components. So this is the form that you will download, complete, and save, and then you will submit it in Fieldwork Part A Dropbox. Okay, so when you're doing this, just make sure that you're providing descriptive observations, okay, that I know exactly what you observed. Okay, so here's a reminder of the 3 components that are going to be defined and the related examples with it. So physical environment, that's the overall design and layout of the room. So we're thinking about learning centers, we're thinking about areas inside and out, and materials. We're looking at social environment. So these are any interactions between the classroom and the peers and the teachers and family members. And then we're also looking at the temporal environment. So this is like routines, how long the lengths and activities throughout the day lasts. So to complete it, you have to print out the Universal Design Checklist. You're going to be using that and have it with you while you're watching the videos, right, to become familiar with it. You're going to select 3 videos, at least one from each section, the toddler, the preschool, and then the 3 primary videos. You'll choose one of those. You're going to download the form and you're going to complete it. And then there's a grading rubric here so you can see how you're going to be scored or graded. So let me go ahead and open the form for you. Okay, so here is the form that you will be submitting for Fieldwork Part A. So you'll put your name, and then you're going to pick at least one from each section. So you got toddler, preschool, and primary. So remember, you have to do the narrative description of what you're seeing. We're looking at physical environment, social, and temporal. And you're going to do that for each age level, okay? So for the rubric, it's listed here. Okay, so you'll see that you're going to get a score for each grade level or age level, and also for reflection. Okay, now this is just for you to see how I grade this part. The assignment as a whole has a rubric, but this is just for you to get an idea of this section. Okay, there will be an overall rubric for the entire assignment. This is just so you can see on this how many points you can get, up to 35. So not only do you need to make sure that you're looking at those 3 categories, physical, social, and temporal, you're going to describe the use by children, any support specific to the children with disability, and you're going to do that for all 3 age levels. But I also want you to take into account that you have to do some reflection component, right? So discuss, what did you learn about the impact of the environment that supports the children. Think about the connections of the videos that you have made. You know, maybe suggestions, at least 2, for improvement or changes within the environments that you observe that could really impact that child's participation. And that's what you will submit to Dropbox. You also have, let's go back to Module 5. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you also have a quiz. So you can get there by going to assessments and hitting quiz. There is a quiz as well, so make sure that you complete that by March 26th. So March 26th, you will have to, the module quiz will close, your case study, assignment, embedded opportunities due, but I just want to draw your attention, the date is a little bit different on the Fieldwork Part A. It's actually due on the 23rd, so just make sure that you're aware of that as well. Alright guys, that's all I have for you. I hope you have a great week. And like I said, reach out if you have any questions or you need help with anything or have any concerns. Also, I'd like to hear kind of how your spring break went. If you did anything fun, let me know. Until next time, guys, take care.